Drug abuse is on the rise in Cameroon among youths of both genders. Addiction is ruining lives and taking them too soon. Our focus is a community in Bamenda called Old Town. This new and dangerous drug, called caillou, which is allegedly made from human bones, turns its consumers who become addicts into junkies, a name commonly used to describe its stunt users. In the neighborhood of Old Town, this is Mr. Mohammed, who is a survivor of drug addiction, most especially caillou. He is going to narrate his journey from when he started taking drugs, his challenges, and his miraculous recovery from its addiction. In the course of sharing his personal experiences, he reveals the different types of hard drugs, where and how they are being consumed. After a thorough research, medical experts confirm that this caillou is the most dangerous hard drug so far. It is unfortunate how the innocent family members of the victims get to bear the most difficult consequences of their consumption and addiction. Mr. Mohammed's wife was the first victim of his addiction, alongside his mother, as we will be hearing from the horse's mouth. Given that these were the closest people to him, and then his entire family members. Mr. Mohammed explains how he had been exposed to hard drugs at a very young age, given the community he was born into. He points out locations where these junkies consume these hard drugs, throwing more light on the fact that different drugs have different consumption locations, and we are able to see the addicts at some of the said locations. My name is Issa Mohammadou. I had been a smoker and a staunch addict for about 15 years.
For long, let me say from about 15 years.
I started with cannabis, commonly known as weed or marijuana. After ceaseless consumption, it became a normalcy and I could no longer feel the effect. My friend then introduced me to a pill called diazepam, known to others as D10.
From the start, he told me his encounter with drugs started with diazepam. And when he took diazepam, from diazepam, when he takes 2 tablets, day 1, day 2, he moved to 3 tablets. To get the effect he had on the first day he took it. He moved from 8 to 4, and in less than a month, this guy was already taking 30 tablets of diazepam, I think.
So Artema even takes the next level.
The next day, I decided to ask my friend why these new tablets still had no effect on me. Then I was introduced to cocaine. I tested it the first time and it felt so good I could feel it in my system. Because every negative thing is good with evil in the beginning.
It was really good that first day. You know how we walk there. All things they ever face fine for the first day.
From it, he moved into other forms of hard drugs. He could stumble on cocaine. He could stumble on some other hard drugs until he came. By the time he got to us for medical attention, he was already in caillou. He was not only doing caillou as a consumer of that drug, I call it a drug killer of all the drugs I've mentioned. He was doing what? He was trading caillou.
Papa. I'm 5 man picking 2 women.
Make myself say, I gave for the selling because I know one they lack the thing.
I started selling caillou because I didn't want to go a day without it.
So even a pastor,
I advise that whether you're a pastor, a priest, or a reverend sister, please do not try to taste this for whatever reason. Even if you are a medical doctor, do not try to taste it because you must eventually fall in love with it. And that is why it is called the devil's stone. This is something that leads its addict into threatening to carry a TV set while people are watching football to go and sell, just so they could buy and smoke this hard drug.
Say one go smoke cocaine, crack, all that kind of thing there.
Bones are being exhumed, and this stuff called caillou is being produced. And it is now from there, it is disseminated, it is distributed, and people are smoking and inhaling. What do you expect? They are going to not only run into health hazards, they are also going to run into psychological problems. Many of them go nuts. Many go nuts. Many die instantly. Many go nuts. They get mad. They get unstable. They get bizarre.
I heard that this hard drug is bad because it tampers with the mental health of its consumers. And I could affirm to it because when my son started using these hard drugs, I immediately noticed the changes. Before, he was very obedient and hardworking. He would run errands for me whenever I needed him. But after some time, I started noticing the changes, and he was no longer my smart and hardworking boy. Then I realized he had started using hard drugs. I cried. I said to my son, "Why are you doing this? You are my husband, my only son, and my all. Why are you doing this to me?" But at that point, I meant nothing to him because he disrespected me and regarded me less. No longer keep something and find it because he would take it just so he could have a means to go consume these hard drugs. When he became an addict, he was no longer my son Mohammed. But now that he has stopped, I can see my son again. I can see that he is my Mohammed because I see his mental health coming back to normal. At any moment when I felt the urge to smoke but didn't have it or the means to get it, everyone around me would know something was wrong. And each time I consumed this hard drug, I would spew up, and my parents wondered. One day my mother asked me what it was I was consuming that made me spew up every day. She had discovered I was under the influence and consuming something which evidently was impossible to hide because a lot was disappearing from the house, such as cooking oil, body lotion, money, even her fabrics. I had completely finished with my wife before I even came to my mother. I believe my wife kept my secret, but when I got to my mother, it was no longer a secret because of all what was disappearing in her house. I was the prime suspect because I was the only boy in my house, and there was no one else who could do such a thing. My wife would advise me even after I stole her stuff. She tried to make me understand I was the man of the house, but unfortunately I was very quick-tempered. Mohammed is very quick-tempered and he is always right according to him, even when he is wrong. So when we have an argument, he storms out of the house and disappears. If, for example, we stay for 2 days without communication because of a problem we have, that gives him the advantage to go and consume these hard drugs. It was very difficult for me because whenever he had some money, his only priority was to go consume hard drugs. At times, he will give me money to keep for the house and later ask for parts, saying he'll refund, but never did. And all of this made my life very difficult.
See a little boy of about 15, he's talking to an elderly person. He doesn't care what he says. He doesn't care what he says. He looks at you, he's ready to upbraid you at any time.
Plenty.
Because of these hard drugs, many youths have become mad, some dumb, and some worse. An example is a little boy of 14 years I know in my community, who now looks literally like my father. All this is due to the hard drug consumption. Right now, I never want to see a picture of me when I was an addict, and anyone trying to show me will be in serious trouble with me. This is a lonely spot I like coming to because sometimes moving around makes me feel ashamed, and it feels terrible thinking about my past. A thought of my past makes me shed tears. So this is an opportunity for me to tell the world my story and experiences with hard drugs and addiction, which is not something I would want anyone to go through or be a victim to. We are mature, married, and having kids. I would try my best to advise him and always be around him, making sure he doesn't leave the house to go and consume it. Most mornings when we woke up, I would make sure he stays home up until about 2 p.m. plus, so that he won't take the drugs, because he mostly consumed it every time he stepped out. But when we were together, he couldn't. I ended up following him when he stepped out for a walk or anything, which greatly limited his consumption up until he was able to stop. At that time, my family isolated me. No one could trust me. Everywhere I entered, I had someone follow me. Entering my own house, my wife would follow me, and even when I entered my mother's room, she would follow me. I then told myself it is bad to live a life with your own people when they can't trust you. I decided to earn my trust back from my family by stopping the consumption of hard drugs. I am very happy now that my family is in accord with me. The way I enjoy my family now, I really wish at least one of these junkies could have a retaste of this family joy and happiness. The period when he was an addict was very hard on me because he was always convicted. And every time as a mother, I would always do my best to get him out. When I used to sell these hard drugs, I saw kids I could father, buying and consuming. So I believed that it would be a disappointment for me to see my kids consuming these hard drugs. I therefore decided to find a solution to keep myself away from consuming it. So I started struggling to stay away from cocaine, which wasn't an easy journey. At some point, I was down for 2 days, struggling to breathe. And at that point, I could feel that I had very little time left on earth. I was taken to the hospital, and immediately we got there, I realized I was taken to the same doctor that started advising me to quit using hard drugs.
Give me an advice for say man stop all these things. I be careless with the doctor.
But at that time, I took him for granted because according to me, if he had had a taste of the experience I was having, he would never have asked me to stop.
So lucky that day I go to hospital and fall for that same doctor, and I just start for the conference. I just started that doctor now one time.
I immediately told the doctors to go straight to checking my consumption of hard drugs, such as Caillou, Thailand, cocaine, cannabis, and among others, instead of wasting his time on other sicknesses. The best I could do was follow him up, trying to make him stop, and praying very hard because I had no idea what else to do for him to stop. Everything was beyond me, so all I could do was pray. And today, I am happy because God answered my prayers. There was no love left in me, but manipulation. I made sure I manipulated everyone around me just so I could get what I wanted at the end of the day. I automatically developed love when my daughter was born. And also seeing other little girls in my neighborhood using hard drugs made me decide to use my love for my daughter to stop the consumption, just so she doesn't fall a victim or see me using it and begin to imitate me. This is how I finally helped myself out of the consumption after my wife had tried to no avail. Just the love I had for the daughter I brought to this world. I couldn't even imagine that an addict could birth such a beautiful child into this world. And that made me realize God's love for me. And I told myself I had a lot ahead of me to take care of. So I gave up hard drugs. And I don't want to be the only one experiencing this love. I want my fellow brothers to experience it too. Everyone knew me as a drug baron at Old Town for years. So please, my brothers and sisters, if I am the one telling you this, then believe me, you need to stop drug abuse. I advise that we start by stopping the barons of these hard drugs, so that the youth will also stop the use of drugs. After experiencing it firsthand, my advice to every consumer of hard drug is to please stop, because it is not a good practice. Seek help and stop consuming hard drugs so that you will be like my son Mohammed.
It's not too late. Something can still be done. Rehabilitation, medical attention should be sought. When medical attention is sought, there is still a lot that can be done. I am taking the case of Mohammed, for instance. You see, Mohammed is getting fully rehabilitated. You know, we had to start with Mohammed. We placed Mohammed on some sedatives. We moved to some anti-alcoholic substances, which we gave from very specialized pharmaceutical companies like NBTY down in the state of in the city of Miami, in the state of Florida, in the United States. They have this pharmaceutical company called NBTY, which is one of the most technologically advanced pharmaceutical companies in the world. And they had things like noni juice, they had things like shark cartilage, they have things like agaricus blazia, they have things, lots and lots of these are all, you have quina, you have all of these things. They are there. These are substances, these are medications, these are, some of them are supplements, but of the curative class, curative supplements, which we, fortunately, when most of them came, we have been using. Those who hadn't the opportunity from Mohammed's testimony, many died, many have died and so on. And so we have used this and we have brought many of them back on the rails. You have Mohammed, as I just said, is just an example I'm giving. This is he has recovered and he's doing well. He's getting reinserted back into his family circles. He's reattached to his wife. He's taking care of his family, running his life. This is just an example. The advice is those who are in this thing should not just think it is over. They should sought medical intervention.
This is Mr. Mohammed's story. We now understand the basic concepts of drug abuse, its consequences to the user, his or her loved ones, family, the community, and to the entire society. To the users of these hard drugs, Mr. Mohammed's journey to recovery should be an inspiration for you to make the right decision. It may seem impossible, but you can do it. Youths conceiving the idea of consuming hard drugs, remember the dangers to your health, your life, and the life of your family members and loved ones. As a loved one to an addict, draw them closer. Always show them there is hope. Do not give up on them or isolate them, because this pushes them deep into addiction. Every form of addiction is bad, whether narcotic, morphine, or idealism. Dear youths, you are the leaders of tomorrow. Abstain from hard drugs and any form of addiction, and together we would build a better future.